Boyfriend number two. I should warn you that this video is going to have a bit about disposing of oneself. Okay? So you've been warned. This boyfriend, let's call him Anthony, I was immediately attracted to him. I have this image in my mind, a very vampire-esque scene in front of a private house called Shells in Worthing, where a gay couple, older men, would throw gay parties. And I remember him smoking under a street light, and the smoke would spiraling around him and up into the air and dissipated. And he was the epitome of tall, dark, and handsome. Just a beautiful man. I was immediately attracted to his self-confidence. Just an aside, at the same party, I met an ex teacher, primary school teacher of mine, who walked up to me and said, Mr. Boyce. And I thought, oh my God. Yeah, because I immediately saw it then. But so we had a pretty awesome relationship. We spent a lot of time in a room he rented watching the Pirates of Blackwater. We were both in love with the protagonist. But we laughed. Oh man, we laughed so much. He was funny. I was funny. We just fed off of each other in that way. And at this time, I didn't have a lot of purpose. I was doing history at UE, but not really wanting to be doing that because I really did not know what I wanted to be doing. And so I would skip to hang out with him. And his friends often would say that I looked so much like this other person, right? His ex. I'd get that all the time whenever we met his friends. I didn't think much of it until I met his ex, and I thought we looked very much alike. We did. Anyhow, I decided to surprise him one night after I'd met him at work. And so I went around and knocked on the window, and when I looked in, he was with another man. They were in stages of undress. And I slapped the window, I think, but then I ran away, but then I came back and I was yelling for him to come out. So the drama, the thrill again of just the this type of scenario. And I got a broom from outside and started to sweep the windows and bang on the doors with it. And the guy, both of them came out. The guy, he left. And I don't ever subscribe to being upset with the other man or person. And, it was between me and him, and I was upset, obviously emotionally distraught. And he tried to comfort me, or I think he wasn't sure why I was there or what I'd seen, but I knew that I was done. I was done with him, but I was also done with life. I I was exhausted, I feel. I was exhausted from going out and seeing guys that I found attractive, but having to face the impossibility of even having a conversation with them, because the everything's codified and there's a way to do everything, and so just having a conversation isn't easy, or it still isn't, because if you're nice, people immediately, they're suspicious. They think that you're hitting on them or that you want something. So I remember it was Mother's Day, and I went over to a friend, walked there. It was less than a 5-minute walk to a friend's house, and I broke down in tears. his mom, in front of his mom called him and he came and he comforted me and I went home. And at the time I worked at the RSPCA, so I stole some which is used and and I put the and I went out into a wooded area behind the house and I managed to get to then sleep for like 3 days, but not enough to end my life. Uh, this is when I came out to my brother because I didn't care anymore. And Anthony, kept calling and showing up at the house and no, well, I guess people imagined why. People being my brother and a lady who came would come to help with my autistic sister. And so I just told him, yeah, this is what's happening. I was in a relationship with this guy and this thing happened and now he won't leave me alone. So that was how that relationship ended. And after it did, I found out that he had a pretty abusive relationship with his ex, that they were known to be in very public fights involving at times a machete, that they'd end up in hospital all bloodied together. And I reflected on a time when we'd gone out to a club and he separated himself from me and was talking to a guy, but he was only talking to him. It seemed as if he was flirting with him. And I was upset, but I decided just to remove myself from the situation. So I told him, I'm just going to go. I'm not having a good time. And he threw his drink on me. But instead of escalating, I walked away. He had a friend visiting from the UK as well, and she was appalled at his behavior. But I thought back on that and thought how I was lucky that my personality was what it was, because if I'd escalated, it would probably have turned into a physical fight. And to this day, he scares me. I've spoken to him recently and nothing seems to have changed. He is still in relationships that are abusive and it's always their fault. I say all of this, but I also know that this is coming from trauma. My understanding is that he watched his father kick a baby out of his mother. And so while certain behaviors are understandable, they're not forgivable. But that was that relationship with Anthony. I just happy that I came away relatively unscathed. And so that's boyfriend number two. And that was around 1995 because I was at the University of the West Indies at the time. Okay? So you should check out boyfriend number three. Talk to you next time.